Hello, and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the third grade concept of equivalent fractions, specifically how we can find equivalent fractions on number lines, and we'll do it in 5 minutes or less. So before we get going, let's make sure we understand what that word equivalent means. So hopefully we'll see in the beginning of this word, we see the EQU, skip a few letters, and then the AL. So equivalent is just a fancy way of saying equal. We want fractions that are equal to each other, but how do we do it with number lines, right? So let's look at our number lines here, and we'll see that we are starting with just your basic number line, right? And all of these have the same distance from 0 all the way to 1, right? So that's our whole, is from the 0 to the 1. But we're going to start with these two sections here. So when there are two sections, when I say sections, right, I'm talking about like this right here, and then this right here. These are my two sections, right? So that's going to be my denominator, telling me how many pieces my number line is broken into. And then my numerator, my top number, it's going to be how many tick marks there are. This is my first tick mark, so this is 1/2. And most of us can do a pretty good job of kind of eyeballing 1/2, right? It's halfway in between 0 and 1, so that's our 1/2. So we're going to see if we can find any fractions equal to 1/2, or maybe another fraction down here, okay? So what is this second row right here? This one is halves. Well, we should see that there are three sections, which means we are going to break this into thirds. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write 3 right there as my denominator, and then I'm going to write 1/3, and that's 2/3. Now, if we want to make it more of a pattern, we could continue this. 0 is really 0/3, right? And this 1 is really 1 whole, so we could rewrite that as 3/3 if we wanted to, right? So now it's a little bit more of a pattern. 0, 1, 2, 3. We could do the same thing with the halves. 0 halves, and that 1 is equal to 2 halves, right? So since they're all equal to 1, we can write some equivalent fractions already, right? 2 halves is the same as 3/3. Now, this next one, we're going to start seeing our equivalent fraction that's less than 1/4. There's 4 sections here, and so let's just go ahead and finish this out. 0/4, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and if we want, we can rewrite that 1 as 4/4. Now, hopefully you see that this 2/4 right here goes to that same distance, since they're all lined up, as that 1/2. And so this is 2/4. You have to count the 1/4 and then the 2/4. But we see that they go to the same distance, so that's going to be one of our equivalent fractions. 1/2 is equal to 2/4, right? And so what ends up happening is they're the same units apart from 0, right? The same distance apart from 0, but the units are different because here's this 1/2 right here. From here to here is 1/2. That's what it shows up here. All we did was we just cut the half in half. Okay? If you take half of something and you cut that half in half, you get fourths. So that's something to keep in mind. Half of a half is a fourth. So let's see what we've got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are sixths. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just put these out here. 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6, and then we can put our 6/6 right there. And hopefully we see that this 1/3, oops, let's make it a little bit straighter here. It's going to be the same as that 2/6. So that's another one we can put. 1/3 is equal to 2/6, but also over here, we see that 2/3 is equal to 4/6. Our final row is the eighths. And what we could do is we can add 2 more fractions that are equivalent to 1/2 and 2/4. That same line goes into the 3/6, and it also goes into the 4/8, and those are all equivalent fractions.